Very much, and thank you, Laura, for this kind invitation, and Rachel and Edith for this amazing organization of this event. Just let me find this presentation here. It should be slideshow. Okay. So my background, I'm public international lawyer. So I will start from public international law, and then I will try to combine this revisitation or revisiting of private law aspect. So just to start, obviously, as you can see on this first slide, there's the library in Leuven or Louvain. So just to start from the one of the most important examples. So as you know, this is a very well known story. So it is just a few words. That was the case of the first restructuring during the First World War, and based on Treaty of Versailles, the books the manuscripts were restored, but in a sense that of the equivalent value and nature, so not the same. And then the value was destroyed once again during the Second World War. So this is one of the perhaps most famous also for academics, maybe one of the leading example. So looking at definition, what is this restitution-in-kind? Here I'm showing you this definition based on final act of Paris Conference on Reparation in 1945. So here is the key words, like equivalent object. And then we see what is exactly this equivalent. So what does it mean? Because obviously when we think about cultural property, cultural object, equivalent, it's something like really strange, really difficult to grasp, because obviously each object is unique, and also in private law, it cannot be replaced. So even if you like, even in cases at least under Polish law, in cases of non-authentic objects, so in case when non-authentic object is delivered, so the contract is not really completed, no? Because it's a completely different object of the contract. Okay, so now a couple of examples, like famous examples, just to show you the problems. So here, for instance, we've got this very famous article 247 of Treaty of Versailles, dealing with different issues. So this is the case between Belgium and Germany. Obviously, is the issue of the library I mentioned. Also, one of the most important altar masterpieces in Ghent, I will show in a minute, and some other objects. So just to show you to give an example of this kind. Obviously, the object here, these 6 panels were not stolen during the war. They were not removed. They were restored to Belgium in order to compensate for other losses, and also to complement, to finish this masterpiece. So this was this double idea, to have like an integrity of object, but also to compensate Belgium for other losses. When you think about other, also we had with similar provisions in Treaty of Saint-Germain, and Saint-Germain, okay, and Treaty of Trianon with Austria-Hungary. There was similar shaped provision, but also when you think like other claims. So during the peace conference, also like France raised like important claims, showing the destruction and having a list of potential in-kind restitution. I'm just showing you the postcard sent by French government, showing the barbarism of war, and also the same Italy. So here there was the claim, the idea that the losses in Venice should be compensated by the most important paintings from Dresden. So it's the first step, because as we know, during the Second War was the same concept. And then when you look at the the next wave. So in 1945, on the one hand, we've got already mentioned Reparation conference, but also other legislation in Germany, but also peace treaties. So in particular with Italy and Hungary, which exactly repeat the same phrase. So the object of the same kind, the same quality, and so on and so forth. And this is then, let's say, the treaty background, not the international law treaty background. But then it starts becoming problematic, especially with when you think about Germany, because the way how this the idea of reparation in kind was executed by, especially by Red Army, but also by Poland to some extent. I will come back to this later. Was objected by Germans, but also by Americans. But in 40s, there were like number of transport from different zones to different countries from storages, from Nazi storages sent back, for instance, to Poland as a kind of restoration in kind. So sometimes if you look at the inventories of the museum, you'll find so-called akcja reivindicacyjna, so reivindication action with no further problem. So that was taken by American from some storage and then sent as a reparation, and full stop. There is no discussion from where exactly it came. So this is like a quite an interesting issue. And then we start with let's say the way of challenging this concept of restitution in kind. So looking at the first protocol to the Hague Convention of 1954, we've got that cultural property shall never be retained as war reparation. But obviously, Hague Convention's protocol are not retroactive, so they do not apply directly to the Second World War. Then we get a very important discussion on the draft principle on the displaced cultural property in connection with the Second World War by UNESCO. It was a very important moment. Because also this principle 9, cultural object referred in this principle shall never be retained as war reparation. So although it's like a repetition of the first protocol, but the initial draft of this declaration contained also a para on restitution in kind, and then was removed. And then the reaction of two states, Russia and Poland, was really symbolic, because they state that this is not a proper way, because it is not about the Hague regime, it's about the Second World regime when in kind was recognized. So this should be still kept. This idea that in kind, as a kind of compensation, reparation should be preserved. And what is maybe so obviously this is the case of many problems with this de facto reparation in kind by Soviet Union. Many objects in different present day Russian museum. So we understand also the position from that point of view, that to retain and also like looking at the jurisprudence of Russian tribunals, and then the Polish is even more explicit, because there's the one argument is to go back to this restitution in kind provision in the declaration, but on the and why because of these collections. These collections that were just were taken just after the war. They were stored for preservation from Berlin on the former Eastern Germany, or in Silesia, and they were kept, and they were, for many years they were not even revealed that such collection exists in Poland for a long time. And he got different arguments that state responsible for the Second War cannot be made equal with the victims. So this is one argument. These are the documents by UNESCO, so you can sit on the website on the discussion on. It is the 32 General Conference of UNESCO, and also the last paragraph is really interesting because it is like an unjustified approach to the Second War, because also we should go to the colonial phase, not only the second. So the way it's a very interesting discussion, but. In my view, when we talk about the principle of Restitution-in-Kind to the Second World War reparation issues, there is a ground in legislation, treaty law. However, reparation cannot be like unilateral, decided by states. So whatever I seized, I can treat as reparation. And this was the position by Poland and Russia. No? So we found this. We get this, and this is our reparation. No? So with no, obviously there are different circumstances. There was no treaty, and so on and so forth. But still, this position is very difficult to sustain. No? That because reparation must be agreed, cannot be decided on the one. Okay, and then we talk about transitional justice. So Bosnia-Herzegovina, we've got very interesting cases related to Restitution-in-Kind. For destruction of religious sites, religious temples, especially mosques in Bosnia-Herzegovina. And in one of these cases, it's about Zvornik. I'm sure you can correct me. In Zvornik case, there was destruction of a mosque, and on the site of the mosque, the Orthodox Church was built. And then there was discussion whether what should do. So obviously we cannot now destroy Orthodox Church and rebuild mosque, and so on and so forth. So the idea was to find a way that responsible community was bound to give it a lot of land to enable the construction of a new mosque, and also compensate to cover some expenses of this reconstruction. And interestingly, here we talk about human rights legislation. So it's based on the European Convention on Human Rights. So this is really interesting case. There are more by this Human Rights Chamber for Bosnia-Herzegovina. This may be the most famous, like really showing this restoration of different laws. And just to like looking at in Poland. In Poland, we've got the only panel related to the restitution of property taken at the end of the war, and so during the basically in late 40s is that on the religious property. There are like 5 different panels. And here we got like a number. So it's one on the Catholic Church, the biggest one for Jewish community, one for Orthodox Church, one for Lutheran Church, and one mixed. Exactly. So there were a number of cases of restitution of also like different property in kind to give a different piece of land, but only real property. And the same was based again on the European human rights legislation. So on the judgment in Broniowski case before Strasbourg Tribunal, on the compensation for resettlers from former Eastern Poland. and this was up to 20% of the value of the former property, and there's also some cases like to repurchase a new piece of land. That's it. And these are the only cases, for restitution-in-kind. And okay, so and looking from the perspective, I'm finishing. So also looking at the issue from criminal law. Criminal law, this is a change, a very important change in international criminal law when you talk about reparations. You know? So because especially the very recent judgment by ICC, the Lubanga and Al-Mahdi, especially Al-Mahdi for the topic for us interesting, show that also reconstruction as a modality of reparation. So obviously reconstruction is not the same like returning the same cultural property, because it will never be the same. So this I would say that this idea of restitution in kind by reconstruction is like floating around minds people at ICC. And okay, conclusions. So obviously the first question that I think that was asked already at the beginning is this in kind is proper when talking about cultural property. Also in my view, especially looking at practice, is not a proper reparation, but usually kind of punishment against the perpetrator. Really, like you destroyed my, you cannot restore, so we'll take from your important. And this was also rejected and very much discussed during the UNESCO meetings. And also in practice, it's basically used for the situation before 1956, so before the entry in force of Hague Convention. And the last, obviously, as I mentioned, even if we apply this to the Second World War cases, there must be an agreement of both sides of the conflict. It cannot be unilateral, like Poland and Russia would like to see the case. Obviously, this is also would function also only in cases when there is like a public collection. So because between private entities, it's basically they can agree, they can find a solution. Obviously, there is, but if there is nothing, it's more complicated, and also, as I mentioned, I think that there is something going on at the level of international criminal law. So that, because also, as you know, last year there was this Warsaw Declaration on Recovery and Reconstruction of heritage destroyed in armed conflict and natural disaster, and this idea that it is not the same, but it gives idea of restoring. Was discussed by many delegates from different countries. So yeah, basically these are my conclusions. So thank you. Thank you.